Fire waits beneath the ice. A sensor blink once. Timestamp, May 9, 2025. NASA's Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter crossed above the North Polar Plain. Below, endless frost stretched white and unbroken, a continent of silence. Yet, within that silence, the radar found movement. The instruments mapped layers of ice in fine reflections. Each pulse of radio energy returned with echoes that should not exist. Pockets of vapor sealed inside frozen rock. Heat trapped within cold. The readings repeated. Pressure, then void, then pressure again. A rhythm without wind, like breathing through frost. At first, the signal looked like noise, thin lines flickering across a screen. Then the pattern sharpened. Each line aligned perfectly with the previous pass. Not random, consistent, alive in its own way. NASA confirmed the anomaly. Subsurface radar reflections showed steam venting through narrow cavities. The vapor never reached the surface. It condensed, froze, and fell again. A slow heartbeat of hidden warmth.
Mission control.
For every orbit, the pattern returned. Each echo grew slightly stronger near dawn. Sunlight barely touched the pole, yet energy moved upward. Fire under ice. Scientists compared the data with thermal models. Temperatures too low for liquid, yet gradients too steep for rest. The frost held memory of heat, a whisper of combustion, where there should be none. From orbit, the radar pulses faded into static. From Earth, 12 minutes later, the signal arrived clear and undeniable. Beneath Mars's frozen crust, something was exhaling warmth. The log entry read, "Subsurface steam vent signatures detected. Source undetermined." And then, silence. The planet remained motionless in view, but the machines knew better. Stillness was not absence. Stillness was cover. Fire had not vanished. It had learned patience. Inside the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter, instruments recalibrated for the second pass. The radar transmitted another pulse toward the pole. Echoes returned in sequence, sharp and layered. Each reflection traced through frost, stone, vapor, and silence. Thermal sensors adjusted gain. Pressure monitors hummed at low frequency. Every reading converged on one truth. There was heat inside the cold. ESA relay stations tracked the data stream. Signals crossed the void at light speed, 12 minutes from Mars to Earth. The packets carried no sound, only pattern. Inside Mission Control, algorithms translated the delay times into depth. Steam pockets mapped themselves in real time, irregular but repeating. The frost above them pulsed with faint distortion, as if the planet itself were breathing through its crust. Engineers checked calibration. Noise filters clean. Interference 0. The pattern held. Numbers whispered a shape. Pressure rising, falling, rising again. The subsurface vapor did not behave like trapped gas. It moved in rhythm, slow, cyclical, certain. Every pulse matched the planet's thermal tide. At 0419 Universal Time, the pulse surge began. Radar gain spiked for 8 seconds. Echo intensity doubled, then halved. A burst of vapor expanded under the polar cap, invisible but measurable. A slow exhalation from beneath the ice. Heat radiated upward, met the frozen shell, and stopped. The ice flexed, absorbed, held. Pressure stabilized. Systems cooled and balanced, telemetry flowed clean. The waveform formed a perfect loop, a beginning that folded back into itself. No explosion, no fracture, only continuity. The planet was not erupting. It was remembering how to breathe. NASA's control room remained silent. No one called it activity, they called it persistence. Subsurface data confirms circulation between frost and vapor, each pocket recharged by slow conduction, heat transferring molecule by molecule, never escaping, never dying. Fire without flame, motion without noise. The energy beneath Mars obeyed no drama. It existed because it could. Telemetry steadied. Orbit continued. Sensors recalibrated for the next dawn pass. The pulse surge faded, but its shape remained in memory, a curve of warmth beneath a continent of ice. And somewhere below that frozen crust, steam condensed back into silence. On Earth, winter sunlight touched the observatory domes above Pasadena. Air shimmered faintly, mirroring the same warmth now hidden under Martian ice. Inside the mission room, the hum of electronics filled the quiet like a heartbeat made of light. NASA's analysts stared at the radar curves replaying across the wall screens. Each loop rose and fell with the same patience, a pulse in frost, a rhythm no storm could create. They had expected stillness. Instead, they found breathing. A gloved hand pressed against the glass, tracing the faint condensation left by its own warmth. Someone poured coffee and forgot it, watching, instead, the curve of data like a living thing. A technician adjusted focus and whispered, "It looks like lungs." Another voice replied, "Maybe it remembers being warm." The room quieted again. No one corrected her. The thought was too exact. The heat beneath Mars's polar cap was not a flame. It was a memory. Vapor rising through the frozen shell, failing to escape, returning home to condense again. An endless rehearsal of survival. Outside, the California sky gleamed pale blue. Contrails cut faint silver arcs through the cold air. The same sun lit both worlds, one with fire exposed, one with fire entombed. The distance between them felt smaller than ever. Scientists compared Mars's readings with those of Antarctica. Both showed vapor flux beneath frozen crusts. Both whispered in temperature, both alive beneath silence. The equations matched too closely to ignore. The two poles, one on each planet, were speaking the same thermal language. They ran simulations. Each iteration ended the same. Heat breathing through frost, a cycle of energy trading form for endurance. It did not fade, it adapted. Maybe Mars had not lost its warmth. Maybe it had chosen containment. Fire waiting under ice. Life's oldest instinct. Preserve the spark. Every scientist in that room understood that patience. Years of listening for whispers from planets that never shout. They had learned to find meaning in faint vibrations, and this was one of them. The data was alive, not because it moved, but because it repeated. Persistence is the simplest form of life. On a monitor, a color map displayed gradients of red under blue, heat hiding beneath cold. The image pulsed like a distant heart. The director closed her eyes for a moment. She did not speak of habitability or evidence. She only said, "The planet is still breathing." And in that sentence, the years of silence around Mars folded inward. The lost missions, the dust storms, the waiting, all of it dissolved into one realization. The world was not dead. It was resting. The paradox was simple and absolute. Fire under ice, warmth locked inside the cold that should destroy it, heat breathing through its own cage. NASA's data proved what reason resisted. Energy persisted not by escaping, but by staying hidden. Combustion slowed until it became patience. Every model agreed. If the frost cracked, the vapor would vanish. If the ice stayed whole, the warmth survived. Preservation through restraint. Survival through stillness. The human mind called it contradiction. The planet called it balance, life inverting its own law to endure. The frost did not kill the fire. It taught it to wait. Cold was how warmth learned memory. The paradox stood quiet and complete. Fire could live without burning. Heat could breathe without flame. Mars was not a grave of energy, but its monastery. The revelation arrived quietly, not through discovery, but through recognition. For weeks, NASA's instruments traced the same pattern beneath the ice: vapor rising, freezing, falling again, a pulse steady as breath. The data no longer spoke of anomaly. It spoke of endurance. Heat beneath frost, motion hidden inside stillness. The planet was not cold. It was remembering. Each pass of the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter added new layers to the same rhythm. The vents expanded at dawn, contracted at dusk, their temperature curve repeating with perfect patience. Fire that had learned to breathe slowly. Engineers stopped asking for explanation. They began to listen. Every echo from beneath the surface sounded familiar, a cadence that matched their own heartbeat, their own waiting. They compared the data to volcanic plumes once seen on Earth, but there was no eruption here, only renewal. Heat escaping without escape, circulating within its own boundaries. Persistence written as calm. The frost was not a prison, it was a seal. It kept the warmth alive by containing it. Without the ice, the heat would vanish. With it, the fire endured. The team realized they were witnessing a planet in equilibrium, not dead, not alive, balanced between both. Heat is not lost when covered, it becomes memory. Energy slows to thought, and thought becomes endurance. Fire under ice was not contradiction, it was instruction, a lesson in how energy survives its own silence. The planet continued its orbit. The frost held, the vents exhaled. Every pulse repeated the same truth. Warmth exists even in the coldest light. Heat dissolves into silence. The breath beneath the frost slows until it becomes stillness. No vapor rises now, only the trace of motion left behind. Steam has turned to memory. Every vent that once breathed now holds calm. The frost seals again, as if closing its own wound. Energy does not vanish, it hides in patience. The warmth remains in the spaces between atoms, waiting for another dawn to call it upward. Beneath the crust, vapor turns to film, film to frost, frost to stone. Still, the pattern endures. There was no flame, no spark, no noise. Yet the silence carries the shape of what was once alive. The planet listens to itself. Every molecule remembers its own movement. Fire has become thought, and thought no longer needs to burn. The fire beneath the ice has not gone out. It has simply become the quiet. The vents have gone quiet. The radar sees only frost now, a perfect mirror of light and silence. No vapor rises, no pulse remains. The Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter drifts through shadow above the pole. Its sensors cool, their circuits resting after months of listening. Each orbit passes over calm terrain, each reflection the same. The steam beneath the ice has become memory. The warmth still exists, but no longer needs to move. It waits, unseen, complete. At mission control, screens dim one by one. The hum of the servers fades. The air itself seems to pause. For the first time, the data looks like peace. A scientist writes the final note of the report. Subsurface vents dormant. Thermal signature constant. She does not call it an ending. She calls it balance. Outside the window, dawn light touches the mountains. The same sun that once reached Mars now glows against the desert air. Its warmth spreads slowly, quietly, without demand. Every planet breathes in its own time. Every silence holds a trace of heat. Stillness is not the absence of fire. It is what fire becomes when it remembers itself. The frost protects what it has learned. The warmth beneath the ice endures. No motion, no struggle, only continuation. Precision rose, certainty fell. The machines rest. The watchers breathe. The planet sleeps beneath its light. There is balance between silence and memory. There is breath beneath the quiet sky. And the silence held,